The man receiving this news is 28-year-old John Plovolt. He's being told that his wife, who had been reported missing, has now been discovered inside an abandoned house. She was brutally murdered, her body left behind among disturbing markings. Behind the calm exterior, John is hiding a horrifying secret. Using the skills he learned through his military background, John would carry out what investigators later described as a near-perfect murder. And by the time investigators finally began to close in, John was already gone. He had moved to a new state, settled into a new house, and fled with a 17-year-old girlfriend. It's 2:15 p.m. on October 24, 2016. 22-year-old Katie Blovelt is captured on CCTV cameras inside her workplace. Her shift is almost over. She has plans. She's scheduled to meet her mother for dinner at 3 p.m. that same day. Katie leaves work, calls her mother, and takes a selfie. She doesn't know it yet, but it will be the last photograph she ever takes. Not long after that moment, Katie's phone sends out its final location ping. Then she vanishes, without a trace. 5 hours pass. It's now 7 p.m. Katie never arrives for dinner. Her mother grows concerned. Other family members try calling her. Again and again. No answer. Katie's phone shows no signal. At 7:48 p.m., her mother makes the call no parent ever wants to make. Katie is officially reported missing. Police officers mobilize. Friends begin searching. Family members join in. The search is underway. 10 hours go by. Still no clues, no sightings, no answers. Then, at 12:33 a.m., police receive a call they weren't expecting. A friend of Katie's is on the line. He says he's found her, dead, inside an abandoned house deep in a nearby forest. Police and medics rush to the location, an abandoned house buried deep in the woods. When officers arrive, they immediately notice something unsettling. Graffiti covers the walls. Among it, what appear to be satanic symbols. The caller is identified as Wayne Rohr, a friend of Katie's. Wayne leads officers into the basement. There, they find a large concrete box, sealed shut with plywood. Officers remove the cover. Inside, Katie's body. A knife is embedded in her neck. 16 stab wounds cover her body. There are no signs of a struggle. Her shirt is pulled up. Her lower clothing is missing. Everything about the scene suggests a motivated killing, and every single detail seems to point in one direction, straight at Wayne. What detectives don't realize is that this is exactly what the killer wants them to believe. Every detail inside that house has been carefully arranged, placed deliberately, designed to send investigators chasing the wrong person. Without knowing it, detectives have just walked directly into the killer's trap. Narrator. As the night continues, forensic investigators uncover even more disturbing details. Katie's body had been dragged into the basement. Her phone, found submerged in water, intentionally destroyed. Wayne is detained at the scene and brought in for questioning. At this moment, detectives believe they already have their killer. At this point, Wayne believes he's been brought in simply as a witness. He has no idea that detectives are already convinced of his involvement. Every word he says from this moment forward can be used against him. Detectives learn that Wayne and Katie once had a romantic relationship, but then Wayne reveals something that immediately raises suspicion. Detectives learn that Wayne and Katie once had a romantic relationship, but then Wayne reveals something that immediately raises suspicion. Wayne explains that after he moved in, tension began to grow, arguments, jealousy, and then he makes a claim that could derail everything. And they started having arguments because of me. If Wayne is telling the truth, his claims about John's jealousy and violent behavior could redirect suspicion. But his story doesn't fully add up. Before this interrogation, detectives had already learned. Wayne arrived late to work on the day Katie disappeared. He admitted to walking near the abandoned house that day. He suspected Katie might be inside the house. He never contacted authorities. He waited until later, then went there himself, and only then called police. Each of these details keeps Wayne firmly in the crosshairs, and unknowingly pushes investigators deeper into the real killer's plan. Because in just a few minutes, the interview will take a dark turn. Detectives will unknowingly edge closer to forcing an innocent man to confess to a brutal murder he did not commit. Despite the pressure, Wayne sticks to his story. Detectives remain suspicious, but suspicion isn't enough. With no hard evidence tying Wayne to the crime, they can't arrest him. Instead, they collect a DNA sample. Their plan is to compare it to the DNA found underneath Katie's fingernail. As police continue searching the area around the abandoned house, they stumble upon something critical: Katie's car. It's parked just a few miles from the crime scene, abandoned in a nearby parking lot. The way it's left behind suggests she may have exited the vehicle in a hurry. Up to this point, everything has gone exactly according to the killer's plan. A plan designed and executed by Katie's own husband, John Blauvelt. But Wayne's statements, particularly about jealousy, force detectives to dig deeper, and what they uncover changes everything. Months earlier, a restraining order had been filed. The reason? John had allegedly pulled a gun on Katie after she refused to give him her phone. The next day, October 26th, detectives approach John at his office on the military base where he works. Their objective is straightforward: hear his version of events, verify his alibi, and observe how he reacts under pressure. For most killers, this is the moment everything starts to unravel. But John is different. He plays it perfectly. Notice what John does here. He deliberately introduces the idea that Katie was dating other people. That isn't accidental. It's strategy. By shaping the narrative early, John is quietly planting a version of events that will protect him later. As the interview wraps up, John does something unexpected. He defends Wayne, the very man he is secretly framing. This is a manipulation tactic known as reverse empathy. By showing compassion, John makes himself appear harmless, trustworthy. His first interrogation goes almost perfectly. Detectives are left with little they can use against him. Still, something feels off, but without evidence, they let him go. Investigators shift their focus to those closest to John and Katie, friends, family. Unaware that John has already influenced them, they begin with Crystal, Katie's best friend, and at the time also John's roommate. John knows exactly how this will go. He already planted the idea that Katie was dating around. Crystal knows about Katie's dating habits too. His hope that she will unknowingly reinforce his misdirection. Ever since Katie went missing, John had made a point of never being alone. There was always someone around him. According to Crystal, the night Katie died, around 8 p.m., John wasn't by himself at all. Witness: Crystal's words sounded reassuring on the surface. John arrived home at 5 p.m. He stayed there the entire evening. He never left. He was there all night. But that detail, 5 p.m., would later prove to be more than just an alibi. Crystal didn't realize it, but her words were doing exactly what John wanted. Next came Catherine, John's ex-wife and the mother of his child. Catherine said just enough and no more. Her silence protected John. The final interview was with Katie's niece, Cheyenne. Unlike Crystal, unlike Catherine, she wasn't there to protect John. She was there to tell the truth. Detectives had leads, but no defined suspect they could legally move on. John had been careful, so careful that they couldn't even convince a judge to sign off on a DNA warrant. Without that, they had nothing tying him to Katie's final moments. For days had passed since Katie was killed. Still no solid evidence. The frustration was growing. John was smart, but so were they, and with their options running out, detectives decided to do something risky. Something unconventional. In just 2 days, they would set a trap. At Katie's funeral, while detectives prepared, Katie's family mourned. They tried to understand how their world had shattered so quickly. Katie was only 22 years old. She had spent the past year working at PetSmart, surrounded by animals she cared for and protected. She was warm, easygoing, the kind of person who made friends easily and stayed close to her family. That peaceful life made what was coming even more disturbing. On the day of the funeral, detectives arrived early, quietly, carefully. Hidden cameras were placed throughout the funeral home. The room was wired for sound. Nothing looked out of place, but every detail was controlled. Cups of water and drinks were placed where guests could easily reach them. The plan was simple: get John to drink, collect the cup, pull DNA, compare it to what was found on Katie's body. October 30th, the funeral began. As John left the funeral home, detectives knew the plan had worked. They retrieved the cup he drank from. They pulled the camera. And when they reviewed the footage, three things stood out. First, exactly what they hoped for. John drank from one of the cups and left it behind. They now had his DNA without a warrant. Second, something they never anticipated. The footage showed John walking up to Katie's casket, taking pictures of her body, making disturbing comments. And third, most unsettling of all, John wasn't alone. Standing beside him was a young woman. She quietly told him to stop taking pictures. Then she giggled moments later. Detectives collected her cup too. Her name was Hannah Thompson. She was 17 years old, a friend, John's new roommate, and once close friends with Katie. With her connection to both John and Katie, and her behavior at the funeral, detectives knew Hannah wasn't just another witness. She might be the key. Detectives were now closing in on the truth. Piece by piece, everything they had gathered was starting to line up. Investigators had interviewed Wayne. They had interviewed John. They had spoken to people from both John's and Katie's inner circles. Evidence had been collected. Leads had been followed. And now, there was one name they couldn't ignore anymore: Hannah. The very next day, October 31st, 1 week after Katie's death, detectives brought Hannah in for interrogation. If anyone had answers, it was her. As the questions became more specific, Hannah's behavior changed. Her eyes darted between detectives. Her hands fidgeted. She picked at her nails. Her entire demeanor shifted. She was nervous. On Monday, the day Katie was killed, one of the roommates reported seeing John and Hannah carrying out several bags of trash. At the time, detectives hadn't thought much of it. Felt small, insignificant, unprovable. But now, with everything else coming together, that statement took on new weight. It was another piece of the puzzle. And now, detectives used it to apply pressure. Just so you understand, we've been working this case non-stop since she disappeared. Witness, Hannah, right? Interviewer: there are a lot of things we already know the answers to. Witness, Hannah Emicham. Interviewer: I can tell you right now, you're lying to me. Interviewer: you do not want to get wrapped up in a murder charge. Interviewer: I need to tell you something. At the funeral home, we were there. Interviewer: there was a camera in the room. There was a recorder in the room. We heard everything you said. Interviewer: so do you want to go back and rehash that? Witness, Hannah: I don't. Interviewer: it wasn't easy seeing her like that. Is that why there was giggling? Witness, Hannah: there wasn't any giggling. Interviewer: we've been doing this longer than you've been alive. Interviewer: you're not slicker than us. Interviewer: you're not going to outsmart us. Interviewer: this is a murderer. You understand that? Witness, Hannah: yes, sir. Interviewer: what do you think about somebody who would stab a girl in the neck so hard the knife goes all the way through to the other side? Interviewer: then stick her body in the basement of an abandoned house like a piece of trash and leave her there for a day and a half? Interviewer: she's right here. Witness, Hannah: I don't want to look at her. Interviewer: it's your friend. Witness, Hannah: I don't want to do this anymore. Interviewer: don't want to do what? Don't want to help us find out who killed her. Interviewer: all you have to do is tell the truth. It's easy. Witness, Hannah: can I tell you something? Interviewer: to tell the truth, you don't have to try. It just flows. Interviewer: we're also aware of what people have told us about you and Katie. They're saying you didn't like her at all. Witness, Hannah: well, after me and John started getting together, Katie started not liking me. Interviewer: if you know something and you're covering it up, you're going to go down with the person who did this to her. Witness, Hannah: I don't know anything about her. Even after being confronted with the footage and being caught in multiple lies, Hannah refused to give up anything more. It wasn't definitive proof. But John didn't know that, and that uncertainty was exactly what detectives were counting on. So they brought John back in, this time more prepared, more aggressive, ready to push harder but careful not to push too far. If they pressured him without enough evidence, he might disappear. This moment quietly exposes Hannah's lie. She claimed she couldn't remember taking any trash out that night. But John remembers it clearly. It's a small detail, but one that will soon become part of something much larger. This is where John makes his first real mistake. He introduces a name detectives had never heard before. Charles Scott, a friend from the military, a man who would later prove to know far more about the night Katie died. By now, the circle of suspects included Wayne, John, Hannah, and now Charles Scott. John was growing uneasy. His plan was starting to crack. Then, on November 4th, 11 days after Katie was killed, detectives received a call that changed the entire case. Crystal, John's roommate, she had something to tell them. On November 19th, John's red Yukon was spotted on CCTV near Las Cruces, New Mexico, 1,600 miles from Simpsonville, South Carolina. 2 days later, on November 21st, the Yukon was found abandoned in Umatilla County, Oregon. Inside were John's laptop, clothes, and camping gear. After the crash, John and Hannah had grabbed what they could and disappeared into the woods. That same day, arrest warrants were issued for both of them. They had already been on the run for over 2 weeks. Once warrants were active, detectives gained access to their phones, and what they found confirmed their worst fears. The messages showed planning. Months of it. Search history revealed things like how to make a two-way radio and how to sharpen a knife. There was no longer any doubt. Then, on November 25th, over a month after Katie's death, detectives got another call. This one came from a South Carolina prison. The caller was the cellmate of Charles Scott. Charles denied everything, but his DNA was now being tested, and detectives waited. Hannah resurfaced. She told authorities that she had been abandoned by John and that she would soon be returning to her hometown. Law enforcement immediately prepared for her arrival. This was the moment they had been waiting for. The day Hannah was supposed to come home, police secured all major entry points into the city, along with every possible location she might attempt to go to once she arrived. They weren't taking chances. Then, at exactly 9 a.m., Hannah was spotted near her family's home. Officers moved in immediately. She was detained on the spot and transported directly to the police department for interrogation. For detectives, this was now or never, their best and possibly final chance to learn what really happened, and who was truly responsible for Katie's death. Detective, what was the game plan when you died? Hannah, what? Detective, I don't think we really had one. Hannah, I guess both of us just kind of panicked and confused. Hannah, Friday he wanted to leave the state, so we drove up into the mountains. Hannah, he got the car stuck in the trees up there. Hannah, so I was like, what are we going to do? Hannah, he said we would hike. Hannah, I kind of stopped. I was crying. I said, I can't do this anymore. Hannah, I told him I needed to go home. Hannah, he started yelling at me, calling me names. Hannah, and he said if I left, he was going to kill. Hannah, one morning he got up and left. Hannah, I was like, I'm not just going to sit here. Hannah, so I got up and walked down the street to a hotel. Hannah, Hannah continued describing their time on the run. She spoke at length, but she carefully avoided one subject: the day of the murder. The pressure had started to wear her down. That's when detectives shifted gears. They began asking the questions she had been avoiding, and that's when Hannah broke. Hannah's statements turned out to be far less helpful than detectives had hoped. She claimed John confessed to killing Katie and provided new insights, but she knew little about Charles Scott's involvement. Detectives could have arrested her, Instead, they made a calculated decision. They let her go free. They believed she might be more useful that way. After all, she was now back in the city, and under close surveillance. What detectives didn't realize was that this was part of John's plan all along. By placing Hannah back inside the city, he could infiltrate the investigation. She could feed him information and keep him one step ahead. Nearly 3 months had passed since Katie's body was discovered in the basement of the abandoned house. The killer was still free. Then, on that day, the long-awaited DNA results came back. DNA found beneath Katie's fingernails matched one person, John. Wayne was officially cleared, but detectives still believed Hannah or Charles may have helped, or knew far more than they admitted. Detectives knew John was using only cash. They believed he was likely using a fake ID. There was nothing more they could do but wait. Wait for him to make a mistake. But John was careful. 7 months after Katie's murder, 6 months after John disappeared, on May 21, 2017, investigators received tips placing John in Washington state. More than 2,700 miles from South Carolina. More than 300 miles from where his red Yukon had been abandoned. Detectives canvassed local businesses. They pulled CCTV footage from a parking lot. John appeared on camera. They were close, but once again he slipped away. Then, on September 6, 2018, nearly 2 years after Katie's death, everything shifted. Hannah came forward. She revealed that John had given her his journal and tools and asked her to hide them. The journal became a critical piece of evidence. It detailed John's state of mind, his obsession with Hannah, and his willingness to kill Katie to be with her. Hannah admitted she had been John's girlfriend, that she had been in constant contact with him before the murder, and that she had hidden the journal. That was the last major breakthrough for years. With no new leads, the investigation stalled again. Then, in 2022, 6 years after Katie's death, everything changed. U.S. Marshals and local law enforcement tracked John down in Oregon. He was living under an alias, Ben Clean. He had started a new life, married a new woman, erased his past. The arrest felt surreal. After years of hiding in plain sight, John was finally caught. Narrator. Even after the arrest, some questions remain unanswered. How Katie was lured to the abandoned house. Her phone was recovered damaged. Messages and app communications were inaccessible. Rumors suggested Charles Scott may have contacted her, but it was never confirmed. With no forensic or physical evidence tying him to the crime, Charles was ruled out and never charged. In 2022, after John's arrest, Hannah revealed something new. She and John had remained in contact the entire time he was on the run. They continued texting, communicating, even after she returned to South Carolina. It exposed her role in helping him evade capture. Finally, on September 20th, 2024, John Blauvelt was convicted of Katie's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Hannah Thompson was charged with obstruction of justice and accessory after the fact. She received a sentence of 10 years.